Toto Wolff was left speechless at how Yuki Tsunoda's Dutch Grand Prix retirement played out, with the virtual safety car working in Max Verstappen's favour. But he admits that Mercedes probably would not have won the race anyway. Tsunoda not only caused confusion among fans and pundits, but also had the conspiracy theorists out in force as he tried to retire his AT03, only to get going on, head into the pits, be told to go back out, and then retire the car a few corners later. That time his stoppage was for good. The virtual safety car coming out and race leader Verstappen, under pressure from the Mercedes teammates, gifted a cheat pit stop. That, however, was not the last roll of the dice in the race, as Valtteri Bottas later retired on the pit straight, his DNF bringing out the safety car, which changed the order, with Lewis Hamilton then leading as Verstappen stopped for soft tyres. Verstappen went on to pass Hamilton at the restart, racing to the win ahead of George Russell. Wolff is still baffled by the events of Tsunoda's retirement. Tsunoda stopping on track, restarting, coming back with seatbelts not on, starting the car up again, and breaking down half a lap later. Speechless, the Mercedes Motorsport boss told the race. He did, however, concede to Sky Germany that even if Verstappen had not been gifted a pit stop under the virtual safety car and had come out behind Hamilton, Mercedes probably would still not have won the Grand Prix. If Tsunoda didn't roll into the pit lane without a seatbelt and then start him again, then Verstappen will come out 8 seconds behind Lewis, said Wolff. Who knows, we probably wouldn't have won it, but it would have been a different situation. If we were to fight for a championship, that would be something I would look closely at, he said. But now I think what needs to be investigated for the safety of drivers and everybody out there. As for AlphaTauri, their chief engineer Claudio Balestri explained the events. After the pit stop, he reported something strange at the rear of the car. We called him in again to change the tyres, and immediately after we had a car failure. This is currently under investigation within the team. Tsunoda was subsequently given a reprimand by the stewards for driving on the track with his seatbelts partly undone, the driver having loosened them when he first thought he would be retiring at the side of the track. Having retired from the race with the unconfirmed problem, Tsunoda explained the situation from his perspective as he spoke to the media afterwards. "Well, I thought there was an issue," he told Sky F1. "The engineers couldn't really see in the data, so I came back again. We fitted a different set of tyres too, and after that pit stop, the engineers saw the issue clearly in the data. That's why we stopped." Asked whether his tyre was loose, as he had suspected, he said tyres were not the issue in the end. As for whether he had ended up doing a lap on track with loose seatbelts, Tsunoda denied they had been fully unclasped. "The seatbelt was fine. It was just retightened again when I came in." Tsunoda had been in contention to score his first points since the Spanish Grand Prix in May, having reached Q3 on Saturday ahead of teammate Pierre Gasly. Tsunoda felt his performance had been pretty strong this week, but he wanted to get a clean weekend to rediscover his form. "First, I need a clean race week. I think I could have a good rhythm after that," said Tsunoda. "Currently, I don't have a good rhythm at all, so I just want to be back into the good rhythm and score points consistently." Tsunoda was handed a reprimand by the stewards for loosening his seatbelts while in the cockpit after his initial stoppage, saying he was ready to abandon the car and started to loosen the safety belt without unlocking it. After that, he travelled back to the pits where the mechanics refastened the belts, the steward's bulletin reads. It is not possible to determine exactly to which degree the seatbelt had been loosened by the driver. Given Red Bull benefited directly from the problems for Tsunoda, Ted Kravitz on Sky F1 addressed the conspiracy theory of AlphaTauri attempting to aid Red Bull via a well-timed safety car or VSC intervention. Exactly what came to pass as a result of Tsunoda breaking down on the track. "It was a win largely made by the sister team," Kravitz said on his Dutch GP notebook. "I'm not gonna get into these conspiracy theories that it was somehow AlphaTauri that caused the virtual safety car by leaving Tsunoda out on the track when they knew he had a problem, so Mercedes couldn't carry through their strategy. There's no upside, apart from making sure Max Verstappen has a nice day and wins his home race. They have already won the championship. Tsunoda thought he was out. He felt something wrong. He thought the tyre was off. That's a big no-no. You should always stop if your tyre is loose. The stewards don't like it if you carry on because the tyre might come off. He thought, I'm going to get out, loosen these belts. They said no, the tyre is definitely on. Don't know how they can tell that on a telemetry, but they can do. During the lap back, they found it was the differential failure. Then they thought, okay, well maybe it's differential. How would they have known that? And how would they have sent them out then? Maybe they were still figuring that out, but when he got back, they were trying to figure this out. That seems to be what they're saying, even though it doesn't quite make sense. When he came into the pit stop, the first thing they had to do was do his seatbelts back up. And then the second thing they had to do was send him out again on different tyres. And then on that lap, they found out the differential was broken. So is there any truth to the conspiracy? Tsunoda said afterwards that he was suffering wheel spin on only one side of his car, suggesting a differential problem or similar. The team said in a statement after the race that the car had failed and needed to be retired, though admitted it couldn't be sure of the cause so soon after the race. Convenient though the conspiracy might be to believe, with Verstappen so far ahead in the points and likely to win the title in Japan regardless of where he finishes on the podium, it'll be a huge and unnecessary risk for the Red Bull F1 operation to consider such a fix. It's far more likely that this was simply a mishandled technical problem, perhaps in part because Tsunoda was at first adamant it was a tyre problem, then in the end the issue was elsewhere in the car, causing some misdirection in the diagnostics that wasn't identified until after his extra stop. But it speaks to just how intense the Verstappen-Hamilton rivalry still is after last season that these kinds of theories can still flourish in the right circumstances. Ultimately, it was another faultless drive for Max Verstappen, another victory and another opportunity to seep deeper into the annals of F1 history. Such is the Dutchman's form at the moment that there were precious few moments through the 72-lap race at which he didn't seem to have a shot at victory. This was a fourth consecutive win, the first time he's won so many races in a row in F1, and his 10th victory and 12th podium from the season's 15 races so far. He needs just 3 more victories to equal the record 13 wins held equally by Sebastian Vettel and Michael Schumacher. With 7 races still to run, he's odds on to seize that record. It's also his 30th career victory, putting him 8th and 1 behind Nigel Mansell on the all-time victory table. Verstappen now leads the championship by 109 points over the tied Charles Leclerc and Sergio Perez. All that puts him well on track to record his best ever season in Formula One. Already 10 victories equals his personal best win record from last season, and at 310 points, he's now just 85.5 points shy of his total score last year. It's not just Verstappen rolling on as an F1 juggernaut, it's the team. On a day Red Bull Racing was genuinely challenged, with 3 teams in the mix for victory for a lot of the day, its execution was flawless, even in the face of an unpredictable final third of the race. It was ruthless too, sacrificing Sergio Perez's track position late in the race to experiment with the hard tyre ahead of Verstappen's second stop. It verified that the hard compound would in fact be quick enough to grind out a victory, and the Dutchman subsequently moved on to the tyre. There's no team performing at RBR's level at the moment, and its 135-point lead over Ferrari is just a reward. Charles Leclerc squeezed onto the podium late in the race, but it was a very close run thing on another difficult day for Ferrari. The Italian team just can't take a trick at this late stage of the season, as though the weight of its faded title bid has finally come to bear. Leclerc's race was cleaner, but undermined by similar tyre wear to that which counted the team out in Spa. He was also hamstrung by some bad luck, pitting just before the virtual safety car, which handed Mercedes easy track position. "We were lucky with the virtual safety car, but I don't think it would have changed much for us," Leclerc admitted. "Our competitors seem to have improved their pace, especially in the race, and this is something we'll be focusing on going forward." It's worrying for Ferrari, given tracks like Zandvoort should be one of the ones it can still win, but in the last month or so it's lost that slow and medium speed advantage as Mercedes has caught up and Red Bull Racing has improved. Monza, Ferrari's home race, is next. Unfortunately, the track on paper doesn't suit the car, making it likely the team's barren run will continue.